Welcome to Kelli Bos, and today we are going to make this darling little baby bib, and we have our pattern right here that you can find downloaded in a PDF. I have bias tape, little small piece of Velcro, a couple of supplies here. I have a pair of shears, some pins, and my turner. If you don't have a turner, you can use a pair of dull shears. And this is our bib. It's reversible. And this is a fleece. You can use terry cloth, which will make it a little bit more absorbent. But what I did with this is I used 2 layers of the pink so that it gave it a little more weight and absorbency. And so let's begin. Okay, and welcome back to Kelli Bos. So what I have here is the pattern. And when you get this pattern on PDF, it comes in 2 pieces when you cut it out. And I just ran a piece of tape across it, and we'll go over cutting out the pattern. This pattern is cut on a fold. And so what I did was I took the 2 pieces of fabric. So consider this the front and consider this the back. So it will not be reversible for this video. And I am on the fold. And I've put them together. And the reason I put them together is because I'm cutting 2. And I just don't want to cut them one at a time. And if your shears are sharp enough, you should be able to do the same thing. If they're not, just cut them one at a time. Directional fabric. This is directional fabric because it has a print. So you want to make sure that all the animals are in the same direction on fabric number 1 and fabric number 2. Not only on fabric number 1 and fabric number 2, but also in the direction of your pattern. So if this is your bib and you had placed this way, which would be wrong because it's not on a fold, all your animals would be going in the wrong direction. So you definitely want to make sure when you fold your fabric that it's folded in the direction that it needs to be. So take care. I've actually made a dress before and all the animals were in the wrong direction. So here we go. My tailor chalk, and you simply just want to go around with your tailor chalk and outline your pattern. Now, I use my tailor chalk because this is a heavier piece of cardstock here that I'm using. And sometimes trying to pin is a little bit more work than it is good, because cardstock, as you know, is heavy. So it's a little easier for me just to come around my tailor chalk. You just need a line enough for you to see. Grab your shears and we'll cut this out. I'm going pretty slow here because I didn't go over this dark. I am really using my eyes here to make sure that I'm cutting correctly. And we'll come around this loop here. And then there's one more little loop. Feel free to move your fabric around. That's one of the things I find that I tell a lot of students. They attempt to cut in the direction that they started, meaning they won't move the fabric. And I have to say to them, you know, it's okay to move the fabric to work for you, so you don't have to bend your arm in all kind of crazy directions. You can actually just move the fabric. Okay? And there we have it. Our bib is cut out. We'll save these scraps because I'm actually going to do a second tutorial on what we're going to do with those scraps for a coordinating set. And here are our 2. Alright, so here we are. We've cut out our bib. And what we have is I've taken the right sides and I've placed them together. If you've been with me in other tutorials, we've already went over our right and wrong sides. Right sides, wrong sides. And I begin to place pins all the way around. The pins will help you to make sure that your fabric stays in place. And I will tell all my beginning students that pinning is very important. You also, when you get to the bottom, want to leave an opening. And if you've been with me, we've made certain projects that required the bottom to be left open. And what you will do is when you sew, when you get to these 2 pins, and the reason I used X, two little pins for an X, is because I have a tendency to keep sewing. I get so into it. So leave yourself some type of markers to know to start, sew around, finish, because this is where you will turn to the right side. So pin all the way around, and then we will take this to our sewing machine, and we'll have a bib. Okay, so we're at our machine, and I've placed my bib underneath. It's already threaded. If you have not already seen my tutorial on how to thread a machine, please do so. I'm starting at the pins that make an X because that's where I'm going to start and finish. Make sure that your pressure foot is right on the edge of the fabric. That's where we're sewing this bib, right on the edge. Drop your needle in. Drop your pressure foot down. And as you sew along, just make sure that you keep your pressure foot right on the edge. And here we go. Being mindful to remove your pins, and as you get to the top of the bib where the neck part, take your time in here. Slow it all the way down because curves can be a little tricky if you're just beginning to sew. As we are approaching the other X, which is our backup reminder to stop, we'll go into it and we'll back stitch, front stitch, and that just makes sure that we do not block our opening right here. And there you have it. There was our stitch. We'll release fabric and we'll come right back and turn this over. Back, we've cut all the way around and we have left our opening for turning. But before we do that, I want to quickly talk to you about cutting back your seam allowance. If you've taken other courses with me, you know that we always cut back our seam allowance right here. It takes away some of the bulk, and you simply do that by cutting a little bit of it away from the stitch. Okay, and that just takes away bulk as you turn the bib. When you have corners, we know this one, you cut out your notches, and that makes the fabric a little bit more flexible, a lot more flexible, when turning to the other side. And so you want to be very careful with that you do not break into your stitch. And they're just little clips right there. Here we are, and we are going to turn our bib to the right side. It's kind of like turning your sock inside out. Go all the way to the top, grab it, pull it in, go all the way to the top of the neck with a little curve, just like pulling a sock. And then you take your, if you have a turner, but if you don't, a pair of dull or pointless shears will help. And you take them and you go into and you push out your seam ever so gently. And what this is doing is turning out those corners, making them a little more sharp. And I'm going to show you a before and after. And I came to my ironing board because you all know what I'm going to do next. Oh, you said it. Press, press, press. So that's what your corners and difference will look like. And that's why it's important to push them out. Okay? I use both. If you don't have a turner, there's no need to run out there and purchase all this. You just get a pair of dull shears, tip of a pencil with an eraser, and it does the same thing. Now, I've cut back the notches, remember? And I did that because that's what makes this bib have that flex and give on the inside. Here, your little opening, everything will fall into place because, I'm just pulling out these corners. Sometimes the finger doesn't do it and you have to go in and do it yourself with a turner again. See how it pushes that seam out a little better. And because you've already sewn, it will fold right into place if you just give it a little bend. Everything will fall right into place. You see that thing? Press. I can't stress enough to everyone that pressing and sewing, they just come hand in hand. You see how that's not curved right there? That's because I need to go back in with my turner and push that open some more. Okay, so this bias tape is an extra wide double fold. And this is the bias tape. It opens up. And all bias tape means is that this was cut on the bias of the fabric, and that's a whole nother tutorial. So you open it up, and what you do is, here's your edge. You want to fold that over so it's nice and neat, so that it looks like this. Okay? And you can start anywhere. Now remember, we have to close this up, so why not start at the bottom? And you place it onto your fabric, making sure that the fold is folding over your fabric. And all you're doing is covering the top and then you'll pin in place. And then that will continue to go all the way around, making sure that the bottom and the top, you're sandwiching your bib in between. Double check your bottom and your top. You want to make sure you do that. Bias tape is pretty easy to work with, it really is, but I would just highly suggest that you take your time and definitely pin, because as you're sewing, you don't want it to shift, because it's very hard to go back and fix it. And you want to just come around the curve. And you know what? If it becomes a little tedious around curves, don't let it become tedious. Don't overthink it. It will bend and work on the machine perfectly. Okay? Again, covering the edge and pin. So I'm going to continue to pin all the way around and then come back. Alright, and here we are. And as you see, I went all the way around and I've pinned my bias tape. And I will take you over to the machine and I will do a zigzag stitch. And the zigzag stitch will go like this. It'll start here, come over, and it will take up both of the fabric and the bias tape. So I have a bib here so I can show you with the contrasting fabric. And so it will zigzag, making sure to catch the fabric and the bias tape on both sides. So we'll be right back. Okay, so here we are at our machine, and I've started with my pressure foot not on the edge this time, but I am making sure that my inner foot is lining up with the seam of the bias tape so that when the zigzags cross, it catches. I'm starting at the closure part because I just want to get that out the way. I'm going to do a couple of stitches and back stitch, remove those pins. And again, you still want to take your time and the reason you want to pin so much is because if I told you the countless times I've used bias tape and looked on the bottom and I'm like, it didn't even catch. So this is ensuring that it's catching. And the most important thing here is just making sure that your foot on the inner right here, let me zoom in for you. Let's see if that'll help you with that. I want to make sure that you're getting this. You want to make sure that this foot right here is right here on the edge of that bias tape. Alright, so we are going to add our Velcro now. So if you haven't worked with Velcro before, I've cut a little piece off the roll, and it's two pieces. One is a hook and eye piece, and one's more of a fuzzy piece, and they work together by pulling apart. But if you place it a little longer, you will have a little bit more room to make it, to grow it out. Make sense? So I'm going this way. And sewing Velcro is quite simple. Same thing, except we're going to go back to a straight stitch coming off our zigzag stitch. I'm going to place the bib Velcro right underneath my pressure foot. Drop my needle, drop my pressure foot, and I'm going to stay as close as I can to the edge of the Velcro. And that's just one of those, I'm going to zoom in so you can see. It's one of those things, it's not going to have designs or grids or anything for you to follow. It's just one of those things that you're going to pay attention to. Drop my foot back down. Now, this particular Velcro does not require me to do an X box in the middle, which is a reinforced. Usually I'll put an X in the middle when I'm working with heavy duty projects that I do for customers. But this here is for a baby, and it's gentle to the end, back tack, lift up your needle, and it comes off, and there you have it. Ooh, there you have it, right there, and there's your Velcro.
And there you have it. Add your Velcro to the other side, and voila, a beautiful little baby bib. Thanks for hanging out with Kelli Boss, and stay tuned for more tutorials.